So you want to write a short film, but you have no idea where to start or how to even write it. Well, this is the right video for you, because in the next couple of minutes I'm gonna teach you some of the basics on how to write a great short film. Now, as exciting as it may seem to just jump into the script and start writing everything into like a script format, do not do that yet, because it is super easy to get lost with your story and make everything look super inconsistent and confusing for you and for the viewer later. What you want to do first is start out with a skeleton or a base of your story. So you want to think of a story. It can be super short, like 2-3 sentences max of what's gonna happen in your short film. So you have a story, and then you write that story into the script, because with the story you can then make it more elaborate and make everything make sense with, beginning to the end and in the middle, without just writing it from the top to the bottom. If you have a story and then you put that into the script, it's gonna translate much nicer than just writing everything in the script form, and you can catch your own mistakes, inconsistencies.
Here I come.
And pretty much make your story a lot better if you have a story that you are then developing in a script, rather than just YOLOing it and starting to write something. Let's say for our short film White Trail, the story is super easy and super basic. We have a group of hikers that you see hanging around the campfire, telling stories, laughing, having a great time. One of them goes to take a piss, then he encounters the sheriff in the forest, he shoots him as a reflex, he goes back to the campsite, girls are a bit shaken, what did happen, he goes to sleep, and when he's sleeping we see his flashbacks of every poor decision he made in life, and they're more escalating and becoming more serious. And in the morning we see one of the girls snorting cocaine off a brick, and then she puts that brick in her backpack, and we see she has like a shit ton of cocaine in her backpack, and we see them hiking off into a direction. And then you can, as a viewer, connect the dots and see, oh, he did shoot the sheriff, not just because, but because they all have a shit ton of cocaine. Maybe they're getting it across the border. And then we started, developing that more into some more details. So the girl asks, are we close? He says, yeah, we are, it's a 2-day hike. And then when he comes back, he says, no, it's a 1-day hike after all. And then you can kind of connect the dots. Maybe, are they close to a border that they're, smuggling the drugs across, or are they close to a reseller or something like that? So you can kind of connect dots afterwards. And if we just started writing that story, from the top, maybe we could not even do such an interesting twist if we started writing a story in a script format from the top, instead of just having like a firm skeleton of a story and then making it more elaborate with the dialogue and everything. We could not have made it as elaborate and as detailed if we just started writing everything as a script from the top. Now, if you've never written anything before in your life, it can be quite challenging and quite overwhelming, because you have so many options. Now you have to think, okay, am I just writing a script for a short film that's gonna, be a script for a short film? Or am I actually writing a script for a short film that I may want to make soon? Because those are two very different directions that you can go in. Because if you're writing a short film just for the sake of writing a short film, you can go bonkers. You can add dragons, fast cars, explosions, Vin Diesel, I don't care.
I don't have friends, I got family.
But if you're writing a short that you actually might want to film someday, soon, you would want to actually get yourself some limitations. And when I say limitations, I don't mean, oh, you cannot write about Vin Diesel. Sure, you can if you can get him.
You don't turn your back on family.
But I mean, you're gonna have a lot easier time writing a good story with some limitations. And when I say limitations, I mean this specifically. If you want to shoot it sometime soon, pick one location or two that you have access to, that you can shoot. Maybe your uncle has a great creepy barn that can be, a great placeholder for a horror. Maybe you have access to a forest, so you can do kind of a camping film like we did. Maybe you have access to a great friend who is super hilarious and you can do a comedy about him. It doesn't really matter, but pick something that you have access to, like a location or an interesting person, or maybe you have a cool locket that you can write a story about. But pick one specific direction that you want to go in with one specific element, and then write a story about that element. And my suggestion would be that your first short film not be longer than 5 minutes, 5 to 7, because it's super complicated to actually entertain somebody for like 15 minutes plus. So first films should be super short, and don't focus too much on the camera work and framing. Just for your first short film, I would focus mostly on telling a great story rather than having great camera, because if your story sucks but you have great camera for 15 minutes, nobody's gonna watch it for the great camera. So you need a really good story. And that's when I say limitations. You know, don't do 15 locations if you don't have 15 locations. And don't do 15 locations if you're writing a short that's 5 minutes long, because that's gonna just be too overwhelming for a viewer. You know, do a few characters, one location, and, you know, set yourself some boundaries. Like pick a genre. Okay, I wanna do horror, and then you write specifically in the horror genre. Or you wanna do action or drama or comedy or anything like that. But set yourself boundaries that you have to, you know, kind of fill in. And then after you're really good with writing shorts with those boundaries, you can then remove them and write whatever the flip you want. And it's probably gonna be a lot better than if you just start writing anything super scrambled. So boundaries are here to kind of teach you how to make a great story. Because if you have super limited resources, like let's say one location or one locket that you want to write a story about, you're gonna have to be super creative and think really hard on how to make that locket or that one location interesting enough for it to fill an entire short film. So let's say you have a locket, but it can be a magic locket that a girl finds, and then sure, we can have a girl find the locket at the end in the attic, and we can say it was her grandpa's, and when she opens it, she can actually talk to her grandpa, who is a ghost from beyond. And you can make it scary, and you can make it super wholesome. And then a twist at the end could be that she starts talking to him so much, and kind of replacing her existing friends with talking to her, you know, late grandpa. And then the end can be for him to tell her, hey, you should probably put the locket back away in the attic and just go spend time with the people who are still there, because you're gonna miss them when they're gone. And it's a super nice, super wholesome story that I just came up with right here on the spot, because I set myself some boundaries, and it's pretty simple. And it can also be filmed, probably an entire short could be filmed in an attic. So boundaries are great as a beginner writer, because they make you think super creative and outside the box. Really important thing for scripts is have some conflict, because conflict is what moves a story. If you just have a story, let's go back to the girl with the locket. If you just have a girl with the locket and she's talking to her grandpa, it's not gonna be an interesting story. It's an interesting topic, but there's no conflict. And then if you add conflict in this situation, her ignoring her real life friends and just talking to her late grandpa too much, that's a conflict, because you have, you know, her friends who are worried about her and she's not talking to them, and she's ignoring them so much because she's talking to her grandpa. That's a great conflict. For the white trail, okay, sure, we have a group of campers, and that's not really an interesting film. It's an interesting setting, and then the conflict is the guy shooting a cop. That's kind of a mistake we made in Fragments of Her. We have an interesting topic, so we have kind of a girl who is, you know, we are following her perfect life, and then we kind of have what we see as flashbacks of her being a drug addict and living in this super rundown apartment. But there's not really conflict that makes her switch, that we show at least. There is conflict somewhere in the story, but we do not have conflict in the story. So it's not really an appealing or interesting film, because we just kind of have her slice of life now and then when she becomes an addict, and that's it. But we don't have any conflict. So you would like to insert some conflict in your short film. Now, I don't say that you have to have somebody fighting or somebody beat someone up, or, you know, a big yelling or a big screaming match. No, you don't have to. Conflict can be just something that drives the story forward. Like, it can be as simple as small as she starts ignoring her friends because she's talking to her grandpa in the locket too much. It can be really simple, or it can be really dramatic as the guy shoots a cop in the forest because they're carrying like bricks of cocaine with them. But you need some conflict, because conflict is what drives the story forward. And my last tip, if you want to write a great short film and then eventually film it, find some creative people who think like you and who want to write short stories with you. Because I find it the most fun when I'm writing stories with somebody else, because we can brainstorm together, we can, you know, put ideas back and forth and make something that's good. into something that's great. I've written all of the 3 shorts that we did this summer with Nina and Bruno, and we bounced ideas off of each other, and we made each other have better ideas, think more creative, think more outside the box. And that's why I think the films are a lot better than they could have been if I wrote them myself. Of course, you can write the film yourself. Let's say for a White Trail, the general idea was mine, but I think I had a lot more fun, and it's a lot better because I wrote it with the people who are equally creative and wanted to participate in that and wanted to make something great as well. So that's kind of a bonus tip for you. If you have access to creative people that want to write with you and make films with you, that's amazing. If not, you can still do it yourself and have a blast. So no worries, I made and wrote a lot of short films myself, but it's a lot more, at least in my opinion, fun if you have kind of a close circle of crazy ass friends who are as crazy and creative as you and want to do the same things and write the same things you do. Those would be some of my best first-hand tips for writing your first short story. Again, probably it's not gonna be amazing and it's not gonna be Oscar winning, but it's gonna be fun, and it's really addictive to write short stories, and especially if you then go and make them into films. It's a lot of fun, and that's probably one of the most important things. Make it fun, have fun. Don't be super stressed about is it gonna be the best film ever. Just make it and enjoy the process, because you're gonna get better and better with each film after, and that's the important thing. And it's really just, best thing is to have fun and enjoy the entire process of writing and making short films. And these are some of the tips that can put you in the right direction to write something that's pretty good. So thank you for watching. Stick around if you want to see more content like this, short films, tips, other stuff like that, and I will see you in the next one.